Hi, it's Kai. Today we are going to be doing a spring makeup look inspired by the fact that I just rotated all of my makeup to refresh it for spring and summertime. I was feeling really inspired. That was the last video that I uploaded, so I'll put in the description box the link to that in case you haven't seen it already. But again, I was really inspired by the products that I had bought out and wanted to put together a look, and this is what we came up with for today. So if you want to see how we achieved this and everything that we went through today, because we did have some highs and lows, if you want to see all of that, then let's stop the chatter and get straight into it. You know the drill. My eyes are primed and eyebrows are done. And for shadows, I kind of am interested in using this little Colourpop shadow palette that I had made. It's individual shadows. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't even know if Colourpop does individual shadows like this anymore, but I really like this corally peachy palette that I have in here. I also do have the Sweet Talk palette, which are probably pretty similar-ish shades to the ones I picked out individually. I don't know if this one is still available, so if this one is still available, I'll put this down below, and then if these individual shadows are still available with Colourpop, which I'm pretty sure they got rid of these. I want to say that these do not exist anymore, but if they do, I will put them below. So I am going to start. I need something to kind of pop the shades out. That's the only negative part of using these if you like do blogging of any sort, is like popping them out each time you want to say the name. This shade is Cutouts right here. So I am going to start with Cutouts. And I'm putting that in the crease, but I'm keeping it kind of low because I might put the shade that is very similar to it, but just a little bit lighter, more so in the upper crease to blend it out. Okay, and then I'm gonna take the shade next to it, which is, this is feeling very old school. YouTube, beauty YouTube, wait for it. You know, like everyone taking their little matte shadows, and I'm blending that above the cutout shade a little bit higher up into the crease to diffuse it more subtly into my skin. Even though both of these shades I feel like are pretty nice and bright on my skin, they don't look too white based or chalky either. They're not acting really patchy or anything, but using single shadows like these definitely reminds me of the old days, you know, MAC palettes and Makeup Geek shadows, Z palettes. I'm pretty sure this and the other one that I did, which has like a yellow and even brighter watermelon type of red and some mustard yellows. I don't know why I thought of that arrangement in particular, but the other one that I have and this one are the only two palettes that I've ever really delved into single shadows, or at least depotting them and putting them in a palette of some sort. I can't necessarily say that I like palettes more. I think I use palettes more because, you know, everything is just kind of together. And the idea of making my own palette is a little bit of like decision paralysis. There's so many colors. How am I supposed to choose, you know, just the right ones for me? And then I'd probably spend forever rearranging the color stories and stuff like that, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. That can be very soothing to organize your makeup. I find organizing my makeup pretty soothing, but it's just, again, one of those things where it's like, it's not always how I need to be spending my time. And I know I'll go into the, again, the decision paralysis loop of maybe this one should go here, maybe this one should go here, and spending much more time on it than I should. I'm gonna take this light copper, it's not really, well, maybe like a light coppery pink rose gold. It is the shade Come and Get It. Ooh, that's a little spicy. When you're ready, come and get it. Na, 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 na. I'm going to apply that all over the lid. Okay, it's definitely coming off more just like pinky champagne. I think I'm going to add a little bit more of the shade, I've already forgotten what it's called, onto maybe just all over my lid to add a bit of a pinky base to my lid and then go over with the sparkly shade. Maybe that will help the kind of pinky peaches come out a little bit more than just the golden champagne tones that it was pulling. Just touching up a little bit of the deeper shade. Now that I'm looking at them on my eye, they're really barely discernible as far as the depth of them. So again, it's one of those things where maybe online I thought I was picking two different shades and it actually wasn't quite two separate shades. Yeah, I like where things are going so far personally. Yeah, I really like that. It's really, really nice. I think though, I have been trying out these Urban Decay Face Bond Luminizers. They sent them to me so graciously. This is the shade Space Cowboy, and I've been trying them all of the different ways that they advertise you can use these, and I really have been enjoying this one. You know, sneak peek to the video that I'm doing on them, which I am doing a video centered around these and like reviewing, wear testing, all of that type of stuff. The one that I've really enjoyed is this shade Space Cowboy for an eyeshadow topper. So I'm going to add a little bit of this today. I'm just squirting it out on my palette, picking it up with a little bit of a fluffy, not like a super fluffy brush, and just patting that on top of the first shade. I feel like it's just adding a little bit, you know, of extra shimmer and dimension, pulling you guys in a little bit more. This eye has, you know, this shine to it. This one has a little bit of extra sparkle. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't notice it other times that I used it, and it doesn't seem like it's doing it on this eye, so maybe I just picked up a little bit too much of it and it was a little bit too wet, but it did seem to pull up a little bit of the shadow. But you know, it's good that that happened so that when I do my review, I'll be able to note that. Like I said, that's the first time that's kind of happened with me using that shade as a topper. I've used it maybe 2 or 3 times now. This would be like my 3rd or 4th. So yeah, again, something very good to know that maybe it's one to try to pick up as little product as possible and build multiple layers after it's dry versus trying to, you know, build everything up at once. Gonna take a little bit more and I'll flip over my brush so that side will be, you know, a little bit less product heavy. Okay, now I feel like it's starting to eat through a little bit on this eye. Again, very good to know. Maybe just one coat. Maybe it's just cannibalizing these eyeshadows. Yeah, it looks not good. Oh, that's crazy. I'm probably not going to redo my makeup today because I feel as though, like, from far away, if I'm filming a little TikTok or even from back here, I don't feel like people are really going to notice that it looks as bad and blotchy. So yeah, maybe, again, good thing to note. That's why I wanted to do more than just a first impressions with these, especially with how many different ways they could be used. I wanted to get down to the nitty gritty and use them a few times. Not happy with the fact that my eyeshadow look turned out a little bit wonky because of this, but happy that we're all experiencing this together so that we know how this product acts. I'm not mad at it. Again, when I've used it before, it hasn't done this. So I think I just need to try this out again, more ways with different eyeshadow formulas and see, is it the eyeshadow formula? Is it the primer? Is it the product itself? I don't know. Moving along though, I did think a little bit of burgundy eyeliner would kind of go nicely with this, like offset it without being too, you know, matchy. So this is the Melt Cosmetics Burnish Ultra Matte Gel Liner. I've had this for a really long time. It's somewhat dried out, but it's definitely one that I can, with a little bit of like setting spray, or if you have a mixing medium or something like that. I've wanted to get a mixing medium, but they're mainly online, and when I make an online order for something, I just never think, oh yeah, let me get a mixing medium. So maybe that's something the next time I need skincare from Ulta, that I can make an online order or something, because I know there's JCat Beauty, they have a mixing medium. I'm just taking this on a thin liner brush. I know they have a mixing medium. I talked about their spatula. I don't think it's over here on my desk. I want to say it's in my bathroom right now, but I talked about their little thin spatula in my last favorites video because I've just been using it a lot to help scoop out products that the packaging just will not let you get rid of, you know? Yeah, this one could definitely use a mixing medium or something to soften it up. But I do really like the way that that looks with each other. That is overall a win. Now to try to make an equally as sharp and long wing on the other side. Sometimes I find just kind of like not thinking about it too hard and just hacking at it. You know, like right now I feel like I'm not being the most precise. I'm kind of just dragging it where I can. And then I worry a little bit later about, you know, evening out the sides and stuff like that. Because it's something else where most people, unless they are looking and staring at you entirely too hard, in which you have another issue entirely, most people aren't going to be able to notice those little mistakes with your makeup that you think everyone will notice. Some of the makeup looks where I was a little bit like, bitch, what the fuck, when I was sitting down doing the makeup are the ones where someone will come up to me and be like, oh my gosh, I love your makeup, or your eyeshadow looks so pretty, or X, Y, and Z. Like, I will literally look at certain even colors of eyeshadow. That's how I got introduced to wearing more cool toned shadows, because one time I did this cool toned look and someone was like, oh my gosh, your eyeshadow is just so good. Like, what are you wearing? What are you using? And I was like, wow, I did this look thinking that I looked a hot mess because, you know, I needed warm tones, and I still do love warm tones. Don't get me wrong at all. Warm tones definitely, they suit me. They look beautiful, but sometimes a cool toned or even like a neutral to olivey, like that just hits. I think I'll, you know, clean it up a little bit with, well, maybe even with my nail right now, but with concealer. But overall, I really do like the way that the burgundy liner is looking with the coral shadow in particular. I think it's nice. It brings a little bit of maybe an edge to an otherwise light, almost bright. These are almost neon-ish to me. I'm a little fatigued of my Project Pan concealer, so I'm going to use this CoverGirl True Blend Undercover Concealer in the shade Golden Caramel, partially because it's top of mind. Someone on TikTok mentioned this being an alternative for the Too Faced Born This Way and Tarte Shape Tapes and that stuff. I do like the tone of this. This is definitely, it says it's golden caramel, but something I've noticed about CoverGirl is they will say something is like golden in the name or neutral in the name or something like that, and then you go and look on another part of the wrapper and it'll be like, this is for cool undertones. It actually happened, oh, I don't know what it is, but it was their foundation, because I actually got a friend of mine in real life to buy the foundation and she really liked it. But it's the new CoverGirl, or I don't know how new it is now. I know that I bought it over a year ago, towards the beginning of 2024, so it might have been a launch around that time. I remember looking at the shades, comparing them, you know, in the store and everything, and being like, okay, this one says golden, but then here on the packaging it says neutral, and then helping my friend pick out her foundation shade and being like, okay, this one, it says that this is golden, but it's actually neutral undertones, like this will work, or this has more pink undertones. Like, you have to maybe rely a little bit more on what you see in the tube than the color name and color description, which I feel like is what people should be doing anyway, especially since our eyes do all perceive color a little bit differently. Like on camera, I feel like this concealer doesn't look too bad. In real life, I feel like it may be a little bit too neutral. Like it almost looks green, which is obviously great for people who need more olive tone. And I, in general, am always just like, I feel like there's always really warm orangey blushy things for me. It might not look like it on camera, but sometimes in real life it's ugh. That makes me question wanting to go in with the Pro filter, because this is definitely more of like a yellow shade, so I feel like it might make me too yellow. But you know what, it's my Project Pan one. We'll try it out. To control it and use a little bit less, I'm gonna use, instead of my powder puff that I usually use, and dust the least amount of powder possible I need to set this, because I don't want it to get too yellow. I do not want to look jaundiced. And since we're switching things up, let's use the Fenty Beauty Eavesdrops today. Let's take a break from some of the Project Pan products. I haven't used this in a while. Ooh, maybe a little bit more warm than I remember, but it'll be okay. Ooh. Yeah, shade 20 may not be my shade, at least not at this time of the year. Trying to bring as much down my neck as I can to blend it. Probably can go fairly light on the bronzer today. It does still just look so pretty on the skin, just really natural. I like that it's not super dewy, like once it dries. If you let it dry completely before putting on powder, there is a brush hair on my face. If you let it completely dry before powder, it definitely is more of like a satin matte type of finish to the skin versus a really dewy finish. We are going to set it though with a little bit of the same Fenty powder. Hopefully the yellow and orange don't go too bad. Actually, I feel like that may have helped make it a little bit less glaringly red. Going back in with my little ColourPop palette, I am going to take some of the coral shades, just a mixture between the two, and put them on the lower lash line, and also kind of outline the, like, not outline, I feel like that's a word that sounds more harsh, but just kind of go around the winged liner so that it's like the eyeshadow is haloing around the winged liner. And then I'm just taking whatever is left over on the brush that had the shimmer shade we originally applied and popping that in the inner corner and a little bit down into the lower third of the lower inner third, I guess, just to kind of brighten the eye, open it up a little bit. I find adding a little bit more shadow in this socket and then around to the bottom can just, especially if you do have eyes that are a little bit smaller, kind of closed almost looking a lot of the time, unless you're like exaggerating how open your eyes are, or really exaggerating facial expressions, it does help add a little bit of, lift and like you're more awake. For bronzer, let's try this Cover FX. If you can hear some rustling, it's my cat in the closet that has the, the cardboard boxes that I use for Depop and Mercari orders and stuff like that. She's taking a little expedition right now, but I haven't used this Cover FX products or any Cover FX products for that matter. It's their Suntan Bronze Duo. I'm just going to start with the matte shade. I don't know if I want the shimmery shade today, but I feel like Cover FX just fell off. They are not in Ulta, not in Sephora. I think they only sell online. I like this shade because it's not too red. I feel like I didn't need something that's red. I feel like, again, they're just kind of like they lost traction. But then when I have gone on their Instagram recently, I saw people complaining about an ad that they ran saying that it was insensitive and classist, but I couldn't find anything online, like even the Reddit threads and stuff like that that usually keep on top of all of the, beauty drama. None of them had anything to reference that. And I was like, maybe Cover FX has fallen off to the point that even outrage marketing can't work to get them back in the mainstream. Products that I tried from them weren't bad by any means, so I just don't understand. Like sometimes with certain brands that come in and out of style or end up closing, I really wonder why that brand, like what made people not gravitate toward that brand anymore? What made them close? What made, even one recently that happened, what blush do I want to wear? Let's use, I feel like this Milani Cheek Kiss blush. throat got a little dry, this Milani Cheek Kiss blush matches the eyeshadow perfectly. So let's use this. Probably should have thought about blush and doing cream blush before I did powder, but it's okay. I feel as though some formulas of cream blush, like to me, if a cream blush is good in my opinion, that means that it fits into my life and the way that I do makeup. And that includes the fact that with having ADHD, I'm not necessarily planning out my makeup look. I'm not planning whether I'm going to use a cream or a powder for which step. And I want all of my products to be able to generally work with one another without it being too much of a fuss. Of course, you're occasionally gonna... My cat just fell out of the what do you call it? I really need to get them a new one that is sturdier, because that one has just been falling. No matter how many times I tried to reattach that cat hammock, it just keeps falling. What was I saying before? I think basically the thesis of what I was saying is that I don't plan my makeup enough in advance, that I want my products to be able to work all together, different forms. And that's something that I saw recently. Someone said that makeup companies don't want you to be able to use your makeup like a makeup artist, which means they're probably not formulating all of their formulas or certain ones to be used like a makeup artist. Like they might be formulated to be used one way or to have to be used a certain way to make it look good. Like right now, I don't feel like my cheeks look separated. None of my foundation or powder looks separated. So on both accounts, I would say that this blush and the Fenty Beauty powder, both of them are pretty fuss-free products to me, and not ones that I have to worry about, are they going to work with different formulas of stuff? So that was the point I was making on that. And again, I wish I had it saved, but someone saying that makeup brands don't want you to use makeup like a makeup artist because you can use it in so many different ways, eyes, lips, cheeks, all over the face, you know, and the formulas should be able to work and sub in and, you know, meld well. I feel like at this point, if a product is a good product, it generally, with the exception of some formulas just not getting along with each other, they should be able to work generally well. I don't want my cream or liquid blush to completely disintegrate, or even my eyeshadow topper, liquid, cream, or other formulation. I don't want that to also mess up other parts of my makeup routine or have to be used in a very particular way to make sure it doesn't mess up my makeup routine. For highlight, let's use it. This is the Nabla Skin Glazing in the shade Lucent Jungle. What was I saying before that? Oh, so there are some brands, this one, like I barely tapped into it. Basically, both cheeks almost already done. But back to the point I was making about brands that just go out of business out of nowhere, like this brand Future Wise, they had all of these products that were made around like snail mucin, slugs, like that was their whole branding. And I saw myself and so many of my other creator friends, non-creator friends, like us using and buying and really enjoying those products and pushing them. I was seeing them be sold out in my local stores and even online and stuff like that. So when they announced really recently that they were just shuttering completely, they were shutting down everything, it was very much so like how was this happening? You know, there wasn't really that slow decline that I feel like we see from other brands, or the decline of a smaller innovative brand getting acquired by one of the big beauty conglomerates and then getting sucked of all of their soul and everything that was good about them and the creativity, and they just become another, you know, mainstream beauty brand. The people who originally liked that brand for their ingenuity and creativity are just like, well, I'm not getting what I asked for anymore. So they stop buying. The traditional customer sometimes never even really catches on, or their products just don't end up hitting that customer, whatever their traditional customer is. And then the big conglomerate is like, you know, things aren't going well. This brand isn't doing good. We've got to get rid of it. And I'm just curious as to in FutureWise's case, like what happened? Was it a trademark issued? Did they get sued? Did they, I'm really, really curious because their products were so good. I liked a few of their products even, and there were some that I was like, oh my gosh, I want to try these. Lips, I feel like I'm probably going to use the same lip liner I always use. This is NYX Mason Nude Matte Lip Liner. It is a little bit more cool tone, or I wouldn't even say cool toned, like neutral to cool, but I like it because it matches, as I've said multiple times, it matches my lip line. And then I feel like whatever I put on top and like in the middle just melds together better, especially if I use a shade that can present a little bit brighter on me like this. This is the Milani. I don't know what it is called. It doesn't have the name on the packaging or on the label on the bottom, but it's the shade Lustful. I'll put everything as per usual in the description box. But as you see, it is a shade that is a little bit, or can be built up to be like a really bright coral. But when I meld it in with some of my lip liner, as you know, women of color, deeper complected women have been doing for centuries and centuries. But when I do that, it just melts into my lips a little bit more. But this is a really nice color. I always love doing these videos because it reminds me of some of the really good products that I have in my collection that I just don't get use out of because I have so much. And it really pushes me to want to use more of my makeup in my collection and use it up so that I can get the good experiences out of all of these products and be able to talk about them and recommend them and direct people who also might really like these products and who might be looking for a product like that. Just a little Project Pan minimalism rant. But anyway, this is what the face is looking like. I think we look pretty good today, despite, having our ups and downs as we usually do in these videos. Just fucking kidding. I did not do mascara. So this is going to be like jump scare from the last part. Is probably going to be a little bit out of order. Y'all will understand what's happening. I forgot to put on mascara and fully did the outro to this video. Luckily, I feel like my lashes, look pretty good without mascara. I feel like I can get away with it. Not saying that you ever need mascara, but I feel like when eyeshadow especially is a little bit more bolder, or even like the more bold liner, that mascara just makes everything pop a little bit more, brings more attention to your eyes even. Okay, now it's the end of the video, but y'all are gonna go back to seeing Kai before she put on the mascara. So I hope you guys enjoyed this and that you're staying safe and healthy wherever you are when you're watching this, and I will talk to you guys in the next one.